The old people found that whenever the whale shark was around, there was always an abundance of fish, and they believed that the whale shark brought good luck, brought the fish along with them.
He takes a whale shark as a friend.
I really don't molest with the whale shark. I see him and just pass him by, and I don't mess with him.
Unfortunately, in some parts of the world, whale sharks are hunted. The dried fin is ground into a powder and can fetch up to $150 a bowl. A whale shark's fin can sell for up to $15,000 US, with Asia being the main market. In certain cultures, a sign of your social standing can be the ability to afford to entertain your guests with a serving of this soup. It is even said to be an aphrodisiac, but scientific tests prove otherwise. With the sharks proving to be worth so much dead, what can be done to keep them alive?
One of the first things that you want to know when you're actually studying animals is how many are there?
What we're doing is that we're into photo ID of whale sharks to try and help gauge what population we've got of whale sharks here.
Because whale sharks have a unique pattern of spots throughout their body, but the area that we prefer to use is behind the gills and maybe even the dorsal fin, that enables us to identify each individual, just like a thumbprint would identify each of us.
We photograph them or film them, take stills from that and enter them into the Eco-Ocean Library. They have a spot recognition system that will tell us if that whale shark has been seen before. If it has, it goes down as another encounter where we know that perhaps that's the second, third, fourth, or whatever time that we've seen the whale shark. If it's a new encounter, we know that it's a new whale shark that we've not seen before.
We began this identification program in early 2002, but with photographs that were taken much earlier, that go as far back as 1994 or 95. In effect, we have tagged these sharks 8 years before we even had the idea to do this photographic analysis.
If a whale shark is identified at one site and then a photo of it is taken at another site, you can also start looking at movements between sites.
The original software was written to identify regions of the sky photographed with Hubble and other telescopes. The difficulty in identifying regions photographed in the sky arises simply because cameras can be zoomed in or zoomed out, and so they cover a larger or smaller portion of the sky. And they can be rotated so that the image appears at different angles. And the best way to make identifications in these circumstances is to measure the positions of stars very accurately in each photograph and use those positions to compare with other photographs of the same part of the sky. The technique is based on the geometric relationships between the positions of the spots. In particular, it creates triangles between every possible triplet of pinpoints of stars, or in our case of whale shark spots in the photograph. And these geometric shapes are useful because as they're magnified or shrunk or rotated, their basic properties don't change. The triangle is the same no matter what size if the internal angles and the ratios of the lengths of the sides are the same. And so we use this fact to make a pattern matching system insensitive to rotations and to magnifications of the image. The same principles apply when you're talking about the coordinates of whale shark spots in a photograph. And we measure the X and Y, the horizontal and vertical positions of those spots, create triangles, and then compare the triangles from two photographs to see if the patterns underlying those triangles, the spots themselves, match each other.
This is where the public can get very, very involved with this whole eco-ocean library. If they put that photograph in, it could be a new whale shark that no one's ever seen before, or it may match up with one that someone else has seen before. There have been other systems that have been used before, which were the visual tagging, which was using a spear gun and planting a visual tag on the whale shark. We've found over a period of time that these get broken, they get covered in algae, so it's not a great way for a long-term study.
A lot of people ask me, why are whale sharks in Utila? Well, one of the things that we're trying to figure out is exactly that. Why are they here? And what are they feeding on?
Here in the Bay Islands, Utila is the only island that is on the edge of the Mesoamerican Reef, the Banaka Ridge. On the north side of the island, we have very big walls and sharp drop-offs that drop 5,000 foot or more. And this is a ridge that runs all the way from Mexico down through Belize, Guatemala, Honduras, and it's the second largest barrier reef in the world. And it seems to be that ridge that the whale sharks follow on their migration route.
So in the Caribbean, you'll have the whale sharks here in Honduras, usually from February to around April, and that's when the currents come all the way gets to Utila and hit shallow rocks, and it'll cause an upwelling, which brings their food source, and that's why they're here mainly in that time.
It's feeding on the small bait fish. The small bait fish are on the surface. They are eating plankton that has been washed to the surface by deep ocean currents. Once we see the small bait fish, we will see the blackfin tuna jumping in a boil. It can be anything from just a few to a huge amount of blackfin tuna. We believe that this actually calls the whale shark, the sound of the tuna jumping.
What comes around goes around. Here we have a big current that goes up to Belize, Yucatan, and comes back around.
Whale sharks will follow a current. They're fish. They're not going to spend their life swimming against a current. That would be inefficient for them.
They'll move from Utila to Belize, Belize's Gladys Spit in particular, to feed on the eggs of spawning snappers. And these eggs are high in calories, primarily due to each one containing a large oil droplet.
They can feed in two ways, either by just swimming through it or by going vertical in it, and they literally put their mouth out of the water, go back down, mouth out of the water, go back down.
In other parts of the world, Australia's Ningaloo Reef being the main one, the timing of the whale shark aggregation follows one of nature's most spectacular events, the annual mass coral spawning, which in Utila occurs at the very end of the summer.
the eggs rise up to the surface, eggs and sperm rise up to the surface, and then the sperm are on the surface for about 15 minutes before they become active. And then they can fertilize eggs, but they won't fertilize eggs from the same individual colony, from the same mother, or from the same clone. So they have to have another genotype, another type has to be there, otherwise there's no babies. They produce very large eggs, very, very large eggs, very sweet and delicious. And coral eggs and coral larvae might be a really important diet source of diet, and so the corals are less food for the whale sharks. But not just groupers and all the fish larvae and juveniles, but the corals. So everything is connected.
It is thought that although the sharks do not feed on the spawn itself, they do feed on the tiny krill and other creatures attracted to this event.
The average size of whale shark that we see is between about 18 and 30 foot. We do see smaller, we do see bigger. But they seem to be kind of immature and juvenile males that we see. If we work on the basis that we know that they're not sexually mature till they're 25 years old, we believe that they can grow to about, they can age to about 100 years old or slightly more. Again, it is another totally unknown fact, basically because obviously no one's been doing research into them for that amount of time. It is a thing, hopefully, that we will find out as we go along.
One behaviour that has been noted by researchers and tourists alike is what appears to be a defensive reaction to the divers themselves. The sharks have a very tough layer of skin on its back, sometimes up to 10 centimetres deep. As the shark and diver approach each other, the shark has been noted to roll its back towards the diver, whilst bending its head to get a better view of what is nearing.